Okay, episode 4. And so this week is slightly different to other videos. I'd say. I mean, the format's still the same, but I'll come on to the theme of it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this documenting this process at the moment, and yeah, it's been great. So I'd start off as usual with what's actually happened this week. It's been fairly steady overall, really. I've found that I'm trying to juggle multiple areas at the moment. So with the business, that's something that's increasingly taking up a lot of time, which is great because it means it's growing, and I'm trying to balance that alongside employment and other self-improvement areas, training, fitness as well, which is something that's becoming very sort of innate now. I mean, it was about 6 months ago I started that, and it had been a long time. It's been about 3 years since I'd consistently gone. I've always been sort of at that since I was about 19. So consistently going back there, that's becoming quite easy now. I mean, I enjoy it, which is obviously great when you start to enjoy things that you know are good for you and beneficial. And I'm starting to stay consistent with that. But I'd say the area that is difficult, and this is why this ties into the video, is taking enough, I'd say, revenue generating actions in my business. Really, that's what I need to make sure I'm improving on, making sure I'm hitting certain KPIs and metrics, and continuing to optimize that, but whilst also making sure that I do the fundamental actions that create revenue for the business, because it's very easy to get distracted and focus on things that are not important and are more noise, whereas really you should be focusing only on the important, and then if you have time, those other actions. So I think that's the area that actually moves forward. So going into next week, I'd say continue the current product vertical that we have. I mean, a side project at the moment is I'm looking into, I say we, it's only me at the moment, so there is no other party, but I'd say an area I'm looking at the moment is other product verticals that have higher return on investment, and that's going to take some research. But I think once we introduce that, it will be able to. Once I introduce that, it will detach my time a lot more, and I'll be able to automate a lot, to introduce new systems, and get a more professional feel for the business. But it's in that early stage, so I think everybody has those issues, or at least that's something I'm having at the moment. I mean, it's always very messy, I think, at the start. And that's definitely what it is for me at the moment. Very, very messy. And it's not clean. You never really know what you're doing, but yeah, I mean, it's heading in the right direction. But doing more of those revenue generating actions, they're often the hardest. They're often making sales calls, whatever, doing sales related activity, which is always difficult, really, I think, for a lot of people. But that's what moves the needle. That's what makes the boat go faster. That saying is, I'll come into that on another video maybe in the future, but that was a presentation I gave for a job once, I think 7 years ago, and it was on that. But anyway, that's another topic, a bit of an indiscretion. So yeah, alongside that, I need to improve marketing. I need to improve, really what I'm doing with marketing is improving click-through rate. Now the click-through rate is really vital, really vital, to be honest. I want to improve click-through rate because we can't afford paid advertising at the moment, or I can't afford paid advertising. So everything has to be organic. So click-through rate is really important. So working on visuals, aesthetics, and yeah, learning how to get, I guess, more visibility. I think visibility, reach, and the amount of people that could potentially see your product, I've learned it is quite key, because it means you can drive higher price, because simply you've got more people. But that's something I love about e-commerce. There's just unlimited unlimited. There's no limit there, as opposed to traditional commerce. In my opinion, I think that outside of the business, I'd say I'm still working on expanding my life socially, which is again quite messy. I'm trying to be a person that initiates more. I'm trying to be the person who organizes things, makes the plans, invites people, initiates conversation, and that's something I sort of used to shy away from. But I feel that as a quality I'm experiencing is quite magnetic in a way, when you can be the person who initiates. People naturally want you around, and they want you to initiate, and it's a really important skill. So that's something I'm working on. I'm working on quite a lot. Stop worrying about what people think, not holding back because of being concerned about what people may think, and slowly, move closer to the person I'm becoming, or I want to become. And that, as I said, this is very much early days. This is only video 4, and hopefully by the time we get to video 100, I'm in a completely different environment, and I've made recognizable progress towards that new character. And I can maybe do a video on that. My work on character development is quite in depth. It's quite data driven. It's not just but maybe loop that into goal setting and character development. Anyway, but it's very messy. It's not. One thing I would say though is the fear is massively exaggerated. I'd say doing those hard things, being afraid, the fear everybody has, because the fear will never go, right? There's always going to be slight trepidation into doing that hard thing. But that's something I'm seeing huge growth in my personality at the moment. It's just repeatedly doing things that I fear or find difficult, that I know are better for me. Obviously, don't do things that I don't do things that are not beneficial. That would be ridiculous. But certainly things that I know are good for me, such as on the social side, initiating more, such as doing the revenue generating actions. These are things that you naturally fear, but I think that's where the growth is, and I think that's you just do it anyway, and it feels great, and it builds your character, and you just grow so much as a person. So doing those hard things, tackling those hard things, is certainly something that I'm trying to do. But it's something that I'll get there gradually, and it's difficult. But you realise that the fear is massively exaggerated. It's not real. When you do these hard things, then nothing bad happens. I can explain that, but I've done some really things that are massively out of my character over the last 3 weeks. Good things, obviously, and none of the things that I thought would happen did. It was all just a figment of my imagination, and none of it's real, and everything's going to be okay. And you sort of wait, you do that action, and then you wait 5 minutes, still nothing bad has happened, and okay, well, I can just do that again, and you can push it further and further and further. And that's what I'm really trying to overcome, that fear. Not overcome the fear, but learn just to be comfortable with it, and sort of be comfortable with that. And so, bringing on to the theme of this video. So this video is, I found myself reading a lot more recently. Whenever I have time to wind down, whether that be before I sleep, which is usually when I read. I don't really like to use my screens sort of too late, because it affects how quickly I'm able to go to sleep. So I tend to read, and I've been doing that a lot more, as opposed to going on my phone. I often put my phone in a different room. I don't sleep with my phone in my bedroom. I'd say that's a huge benefit hack that I found, just from 2 weeks of doing it. Not 2 weeks, probably a bit more than that, but you wake up feeling so much more refreshed, having just fallen asleep in such a cleaner way. You feel so much more energy. You're able to wake up. You don't need to sleep with your phone next to you, and so that's why I don't do that. So it enables me. But anyway, in that space, in addition to why I read, there's some other reasons. It enables me to fall asleep really quickly. It makes me, by the time I've done that half an hour of reading, I'm able to fall asleep within 10 minutes. But also, I think books, self-development books, that I have a list I'm going to go through in a moment. They're not all self-development books, they're not all traditional self-development books, but they're books that I have actually read that have really helped me. Some I read 6 years ago, some I read 2 months ago, and it's such a small cost. I mean, you know, for a lifetime of experience from someone else, you can get it for like $20 or something like that. Whatever, you know, some a lot less, probably $10 for some of these books. And I wanted to go through a number of these books and just take out the core lesson from each of them that have genuinely helped me, and go through the specific lessons that I have taken from them. So, you know, without further ado, I've got the first book here is Essentialism. Now, this is something you may have, you know, read this book. I think a lot of people in this space trying to become a less distracted person in the area of sort of productivity, I guess this would be under, maybe mindset, but really this is actually just focusing on what matters. And I mean, you can probably tell just by the cover, you know, the confused spiral into the, you know, more complete circle. But this is a great book. And now, I read this about three years ago. It's something that I'm going to come back to now, especially that I now actually run my own business. So I'm going to reread this. But certainly from the first reading I did when I was gifted this book, is the core idea. It's very for me at least, the core idea was you can do anything but not everything. And before reading it, I would have a task list at the beginning of the week, and I would try and complete 50 tasks in one day. And I think that out of those 50 tasks, what this book taught me is there are, you know, 50 tasks, and, you know, you could do all 50, but really you should only do 10. And so you can just eliminate those 40 that you could do, and the 10 that you should be doing, keep those on the list, and suddenly your to-do list is 10 items and not 50. It's about blocking out the noise, focusing on the important. And most things don't matter. Only the things that really make the boat go faster matter. And so that's what I learned from this book. So instead of trying to do everything, I focus on what matters, eliminate what doesn't. And that way I was able to effectively move the business forward by focusing on the items that I needed to work on. So for anybody, any busy professional, any busy business person, I'd really recommend this book. I had doubts about it initially, I guess, because when somebody, you know, because it expresses it so simply, it's not really technical, but anybody who wants to regain control, that's a good book, and that's something that really helped me. Not spreading yourself too thin, focusing in one direction. Yeah, I'd say Essentialism is the first book. Now the next one is very, very different actually to Essentialism. It's just a pocket-sized book, Springs of Chinese Wisdom. Now, this is based on perspective and reflection. To be honest, it's very different from, obviously, Essentialism, sort of pocket-sized. You know, it's something that you can look at. Each page has a different meditation or reflection on it, and you can refer to it at any point. And I guess at those times I've had when, and there it is again, at times I've had where I've had self-doubt, negativity. This was bought for me as a Christmas gift. I can't remember, I think a couple of years ago. But I put it in a drawer, but then I decided to just get it out one day. And it's just amazing, the reflections and the meditations you can get from this. Is incredible. It's able to distill very complex problems into a few notes on each page. And there are others in the same series, and these are just springs of Chinese wisdom, but there happiness, friendship, love, comfort in the series. Again, I'm not sure where I'm not sure who publishes it. I've never seen them before or after being gifted it, but it's certainly a very valuable gift that I was given. And it's, you know, if you're ever dealing with uncertainty, doubt, negativity, you can open any page in this book, or you know, you can read through, peruse through until you find a note that represents a problem you're having, and having, and then, you know, you read it and it really helps, and it gives you a way of seeing the problem differently, sort of saying to you, you know, I recognize your problem, I understand that, but have you thought about it this way? Have you thought about it this way? And it's a constant source of clarity. It's obviously not a traditional self-help book, but it enables you to think about things in a new way. It gives you a different perspective, and I'd say sometimes that's more valuable than anything else, really. So pocket size, you can travel with it, take it anywhere you want, and open up any page until you find a meditation or reflection that works for you. And you know, unlike Essentialism, I'm not sure who publishes it. You'll have to find that. But Essentialism is obviously, the first book is very well known, very well published. So I'd say Springs of Chinese Wisdom, certainly a very valuable book. Now, this next book is very technical. I was asked to read this. Well, I was given a list. My first job in financial services, goodness me, it was quite a few years ago now. About 4 years ago, I was given this book, a list of books, a reading list that I should, at some point, I was told, you know, read these books, and, you know, go through these books, read them, and, you know, this will help you with this job, because it was so new from what you study, and then you're sort of flung into these jobs, and I needed something to help me understand how the economy worked. Obviously, there's only so much study you can do, and so my line manager at the time gave me a list of books to read, and I chose, out of that book, the first one I picked off was Capitalism Without Capital. Okay, apologies for that pause, just had to get something there. As I was saying, Capitalism Without Capital is the third book. So, as I was saying, the way I came across this book was my first job in financial services a few years back, and my line manager at the time, because I was completely out of my depth, I started and quite quickly realised that I didn't really know anywhere near as much as these other people here. So I decided to ask him for some books that would help me understand. Here is a book, Capitalism Without Capital, and really this book is brilliant. It's extremely technical. A lot of scholarly articles are referenced throughout. A lot of external texts that are great if you have the time to go and read those referenced articles and studies and other books and papers where this book references them. Here's what it looks like again, just in case you want to find it. Amazon's obviously the main place, but ironically, that is one of the subject lines of the book, amongst other huge companies, and really, I just picked this book out at random just because the cover looked cool. There's the warehouse with this sort of trolley with a laptop on it, an empty warehouse. Sort of some symbolism there, which I won't sort of insult your intelligence by explaining that. But I just picked it out because the cover looked cool. But I didn't realise how good this book would be. And the tagline is The Rise of the Intangible Economy, and it really helped me learn quite quickly in that job how the economy worked, how the the model portfolio that the particular company I worked for in financial services, how a lot of the companies are very well explained with regard to valuation, amongst other things, and also how you discuss them. This book really helps. It's very technical. You need to give it time to bed in, but honestly, one of the best. Just a brilliant, really eye-opening, brilliant book that I thoroughly enjoyed reading, and it helped me massively. Helped me. When we were talking a few years ago, I'm not sure how applicable it is now. I can't see a reason why it wouldn't be. But great book, essential read, I think, for anybody in financial services who may need some more information about it. But really, the key takeaway is very important, and it's that the world has shifted away from physical assets like buildings, machinery, and value is now increasingly created through ideas, brands, software, and those things behave a lot different, behave much more differently. They scale faster, they're harder to measure, and they have very different outcomes. So how do you understand that transition? And this book is great. So yeah, give it time. And understanding that shift helped me massively in the first job. See, hats off to that manager who suggested that book all those years ago, or the list at least, and I picked the book. But I'm very glad I picked this one. It's great. It's helped me a lot. And I'd recommend anybody in financial services, or really anybody who just wants a broader understanding of the economy. I'd say anybody in business. It's a fantastic book, and it really just teaches you at a bedrock level how modern economies actually function. And that's, I think, important, especially if you're trying to build anything yourself. So like Essentialism, I may revisit this one now. But yeah, fantastic book. Certainly worth the read. And the next book couldn't be further away from Capitalism Without Capital. It's not heavy at all, but I'll explain why it's one of my favourite books. So this, Lonely Planet, The Best Place to Be Today, I really like it. It's obviously, a book really that is, it's not too difficult to read. You can travel with it. You can use it for inspiration. But I really like this book, and it's completely different to the others. But that's not the reason I like it. Really, what it does is it goes through every day of the year and shows you the best place to be on that day of the year. So Lonely Planet have clearly determined via a range of factors, weather, seasonality, avoiding crowds, etc. Maybe you like crowds, in that case, maybe don't read this book. But if you don't, it tells you the best place to go. So I know there are so many examples of for example, on the 24th of July, it says, why now? Come in summer for the safest and best conditions. It's telling you to go on a dangerous sort of trek. So this is sort of how it looks on each day of the year. And you can look at that day of the year and it says why now, where, and then the dates. Obviously, it's not literally you have to go on that day, but around that time. And I really like it. So that's how it does. It goes through every day of the year and tells you the best place to be in the world on that particular day. And I think for me, the reason why I enjoy this book, the reason why isn't really about when I'm bored of all the technical books I read, like Essentialism, like the other books we'll come on to. I won't talk about them yet, but when I don't want to read that and I want something much lighter, I will read this. And it's really not about the locations in the book. It's sort of irrelevant, really, to why I like it. I like it because it adds, it's a realization that for me there's an enormous amount of life out there beyond your screen, beyond your work, and the world is huge. There's so much to explore, there's so much to do, and there's so much to see. And whenever I'm maybe catching myself wasting time, not really performing as I'd like, wasting time on rubbish and nonsense that doesn't really make me a more intelligent and more educated person, I'll turn to this book, I'll look at it, and it creates a sort of pressure, but in a positive way, that there's a lot to do. And instead of just existing in this one place, you have to start thinking big. And also there's a lot to do, so don't waste your time, because you need to be able to experience all these things and see all these incredible places that the world has out there beyond wherever you're working. And that's a really nice pressure to have, because you read the book and you sort of realize, oh, okay, I don't want to see all of this, I want to do all of this. Well, I need to get back to work so I can afford to go and see all these places and not waste time, because the clock's ticking. So it's a nice pressure that book gives me, which probably gives you a little insight into my character, to be honest. I don't find particularly pleasure in that book looking at the places to go. For me, it's like I think because I'm somebody who thinks so deeply, and for me, it's like a bit of a wake up call, or a good pressure that I need to see all this stuff. There's so much out there in the world that you want to see, and the clock's ticking, and you've got to go and do it. So that's why I like that book. The Best Place to Be Today. Very different to Capitalism Without Capital. Very, very different. So the next book is one of my personal favourites. Now, it is The Inner Game of Tennis. And this is really a mental, there it is, Inner Game of Tennis. Now, it is a book framed around tennis. Tennis is the medium used to explore many of the ideas within the book. There it is again, but I can't tell you how underrated this book is. It's a book really on mental performance, I say. Obviously, it does help with tennis. I play tennis, that's why I bought it. So initially, the story behind this book, well, it's an unfortunate pun, but the story behind that book is I was looking to be a better tennis player. I started playing tennis and quickly realised how bad I was about 2 years ago, and I needed a book to help me become a better tennis player. I couldn't afford a tennis coach, still can't afford a tennis coach, but this book, whilst it's theory, it's not a real tennis coach, did wonders for my game. So physically, I became a much better tennis player. But it is also, set that down there, it's also a great, really it's about mental performance and how the lessons in the book can be translated into all areas of life, in business, training, life in general. And really it's about performance, and the key idea is your biggest opponent isn't external, it's internal. When I realised that, I stopped looking at what the opponent was doing physically in the game of tennis, because obviously, I'll preface this, my experience reading this book was to become a better tennis player. I didn't quite realise how it's not necessarily about tennis. I just thought I'll be honest, when I bought the book, I thought it would just be how to become a better tennis player. Really, it's a guide to the mental side of peak performance. And so I got a lot more out of the book than I thought I would. And I genuinely believe, because maybe a lot of people can read between the lines, but a lot of people may think it is. And it obviously, every idea in the book is explored through the medium of tennis. So it is about tennis. It does indirectly help you become a much better tennis player. However, it's really around the mental side of peak performance. That's what surprised me about this book, and learning how to manage your thoughts, learning that your biggest opponent is internal, how to manage your focus, your mental state, and how that has such a massive impact on your performance levels. It certainly did for my performance levels, not just in tennis, but in life, business, dating, training, life in general, really. It helped me massively. And so I can't tell you how underrated the inner game of tennis is. I'd recommend it to anybody who either wants to become a better tennis player, or is interested in the broader theme of, or interested in the broader theme of sort of peak performance, the mental side of peak performance. Fantastic book, invaluable lessons. I'm going to read it again at some point. It's also, I'll get it back, it's in a good size as well. You know, you could read this quite easily on the long flight. Yeah, fantastic. I'd recommend it. Very lightweight, easy to carry. From a, not sure why I'm saying that, from a practical perspective, fantastic book. Now, the next book is the first ever self-development book that I read. I asked this for Christmas when I believe it came out when I was 17. I think so. I think it came out when I was 17. That's what I wanted for Christmas. I mean, most kids probably want something cooler than that these days. But for me, I wanted Principles by Ray Dalio. And that's what I really wanted. And I got it. And I can't tell you how, excuse me, can't tell you how excited I was when I got this book. It may have been 17, maybe 18. I can't remember when it came out, but I may have been slightly older. But anyway, it was the first self-development book I ever read, and I was ever bought. And here it is. As you can see, it's slightly faded, but Principles, Ray Dalio, Life and Work. It's really cool if you get it in the hardback, and it's essentially, really, it's definitely the most valuable self-development book I've ever read. And the core lesson that I got from it, obviously, there's a life's worth of, or especially up to the point he wrote this book 10 years ago. Every life lesson he has in life and work. So invaluable. Ray Dalio, Bridgewater Associates. Incredibly valuable book. I'd recommend. I mean, most people would have heard of this if they're looking into self-development books, but you know, I can't tell you how valuable it was. First book I ever got. So excited to read it, and this book set me on my self-development journey. It got me into entrepreneurialism. I always struggle with that word, but self-development, as I said, business, trying to do something outside of the ordinary. I'd say this book really sparked a lot of things within me, and it's the reason I became so curious about the alternatives to the traditional path. Principles by Ray Dalio. And one more time, if you know, have a look. Fantastic book. The core lesson with this one that I got, obviously, we're talking about, as I said, we're talking about a life of lessons from such a successful individual, and so there's so much you could choose from it. But I'd say, for me, learning what second and third order consequences are from actions, and the main lesson I took is every action has a consequence, but beyond the immediate moment, especially bad actions. So not going to the gym or not training tomorrow, it would affect me. The first order consequence is that I wouldn't be as in tune with my routine. I wouldn't get that one step closer to my fitness goals. However, the second order consequence is we don't meet the monthly goal. The third order consequence is you perhaps don't correct your form that you were going to correct in that session tomorrow, and so you injure yourself in 3 months' time, or you don't meet your annual fitness goals. With eating something bad, yes, in the moment, eating something bad isn't really going to affect you. The immediate consequence isn't that bad. But the second order consequence is tomorrow you won't feel good. The third order consequence is that 3 months down the line, you haven't lost the amount of weight you wanted to. Every action has consequences, especially bad ones, beyond the immediate moment. And this was such an important lesson because I stopped thinking, thinking in the way that if I don't not working on something today, doesn't just affect today, it affects the weeks, the months, even the years following that. And so it was a really important lesson learning about second, third. You can take it as far as you like. Really, it's, I think, to think about it in a healthy way. I prefer just to stick to second and third order consequences. But before and this is maybe something I've lost in the last few years. It's been 7 years since I read this book, maybe slightly more. It's invaluable lesson from Ray Dalio, and I can't thank the book enough for teaching me that. Really, every action has consequences beyond the immediate moment. Understanding second and third order consequences to everything has a consequence. Understanding those consequences, because it's not necessarily negative. By doing a good action will produce good. I should definitely do that, because not only will it produce that result in the moment, but it will also get me closer to this goal in 3 months' time, and I'll hit this goal in a year. And so, yeah, it's why it's my favourite book. It's the first self-development / business / free thinking book I read, and it didn't disappoint. Really didn't disappoint, and it changes how you think. You start making decisions based on long-term consequences, long-term thinking, and it really changed how I think. And you stop focusing and optimizing for short-term comfort. At least that's my experience. My experience reading. And now the final book. There is one more book that. There is a final book. Now this book is very different to the other books. It's something quite personal. It might be something that people don't affiliate with, which is fine. But for me, it's, I'd say every lesson I've ever, not every lesson, every pitfall, every area that I've had or problem, I've always at some point, maybe not in the moment, but weeks or months down the line when I've been reading it, this book, I've been able to find a lesson in it. If you read between the lines, you find a lesson and a blessing within the text. So that's why it's quickly become a book for me that has actually really helped. And I'm very much at the beginning of the book, but every lesson, almost any situation, it helps with perspective, gratitude, vision, and it's just great, and it helps you stay aligned with that long-term vision. Be grateful for what you already have. See how far you've come. You may not be at the end goal, but look at how far you've come from where you were. So it helps with gratitude, staying grateful for the life you currently have, but whilst also keeping an eye on the long-term vision, creating that vision, and working every day towards that vision. And it's not something. I haven't actually told you the book, and it's the Bible, and this is something that is very much ongoing learning. Now I like the New International Version because it comes in this sleeve, and you can really, it's just easier. It's easier to read. I find it's the larger pages with the slightly larger text, and so that's why I like the New International Version. But there it is, comes in the sleeve, and you can just take it out there, sort of nice leather, and there we go. So yeah, that's the New International Version. I'd recommend that if you want something easy to read. You can travel with it. So that's the last book, and it's something that you can return to continuously. You can learn something every time you read it, and every problem you have, it can certainly help with that, and it's a lesson in everything. I mean, I'm a Christian, very much I would say a beginner, but I am, and hence why I obviously read that and study it, and it really helps me. I'm not somebody who well, maybe don't need to go into that, but I have a very sort of personal relationship with it, and it's something I'm exploring at the moment, and it's incredibly valuable. The Bible, it's ongoing learning, and it's personally a book that I've found very valuable. And I think what all these books are so important is that at this stage in my life, I don't have many of the answers. I'm still figuring a lot out, which is part of this process really. But these books allow me to go much further, to learn lessons from people who are so much further ahead, and apply those lessons to my own situation, which is very very valuable. And this isn't to say that they replace action. I don't just read all the time and not do anything. I think these books help me understand what to do, and I don't let that replace the action. They improve how I think, and they lead to better decisions. And so they are the books that have helped me. Some years ago, some I'm still reading now. But different topics, different styles. You know, pick and choose whichever ones you want to read. But like everything else in this process, I think you learn, you'll read something from the book, and you'll go back to what you're currently doing, iterate it, improve it, and just continuing moving forward. So that's it for the video this week. I just wanted to share those books that I personally find very valuable, in hope that someone else can find them. Especially a few of those books, I'd say, are lesser known. Principles and Essentialism will be very well known, but you know, Capitalism Without Capital and The Inner Game of Tennis are lesser known, slightly more niche, but certainly is valuable. And yeah, I hope this helps. I hope this helps. And yeah, there'll be another video soon. Yeah, it's been a good week, and hopefully you can explore those titles. And yeah, thank you very much.